The mist of Niagara Falls rose high into the morning sky, painting a silver curtain between two great nations, the United States and Canada. On one side stood the quiet town of Niagara Falls, New York. On the other, the lively city of Niagara Falls, Ontario. Between them thundered the ancient waterfalls, powerful, eternal, and full of secrets. Amelia Carter, a young journalist from New York City, stepped off the train with her notepad and camera. Her assignment was simple: write an article about the tourism revival at Niagara Falls. But Amelia was searching for more than a travel story. She wanted something that could touch hearts, something real. As she walked toward the viewing deck, she heard the mighty roar of the falls. It wasn't just sound. It was life itself, echoing through the gorge. The air was cool and heavy with mist. An old man selling postcards smiled at her and said, "You're not from around here, are you?" Amelia smiled. "No, just visiting." The man nodded toward the water and replied, "Niagara doesn't like visitors, it likes believers." His words made her pause. There was something mystical about them, something that made her heart race. That evening, Amelia checked into an old wooden inn near the river. The place was quiet, and her room had a window that opened toward the falls. The innkeeper, a gentle old woman named Mrs. Ellison, handed her the keys and said, "You're just in time for tomorrow's festival, the Night of the Maid. Locals gather by the river to tell the story of Lelawala, the Maid of the Mist. They say she still watches over the falls." Amelia had heard bits of this legend, a young native woman who had given her life to the river centuries ago, but she never knew why. That night, as the wind carried the distant roar of the water through her window, she felt like the falls were whispering her name. The next morning, Amelia crossed Rainbow Bridge to the Canadian side. The view was breathtaking. Sunlight touched the mist, forming bright rainbows that shimmered like living spirits. Tourists laughed, children pointed at the giant curtain of water, and cameras clicked everywhere. She boarded the famous Maid of the Mist boat. As it sailed closer to the Horseshoe Falls, the thunder grew louder, and the spray soaked her face. She closed her eyes, feeling the power of nature all around her, and then suddenly, she heard something strange. A soft, distant voice whispered through the roar, "Help me find the truth." Amelia's eyes flew open. She looked around, but no one was near. Tourists were busy taking photos. The voice came again, faint, sorrowful, and gone in an instant. When the boat returned to shore, Amelia rushed to the guide. "Has anyone ever heard voices here?" she asked. The guide gave a knowing look. "Some say the maid still speaks to those who listen. Maybe she spoke to you." That night, Amelia couldn't rest. The whisper kept echoing in her head. She decided to visit the Niagara History Museum to find out more. There she met Dr. Ethan Cole, a historian and researcher. When she mentioned the legend of Lelawala, his eyes lit up. "I've studied that story for years," he said. "But there's something missing. Her people vanished after her death. Some say she sacrificed herself for peace, but no one knows what really happened." They searched old maps and journals together. In a dusty box, Amelia found a torn page from a missionary's diary, dated 1679. The final words read, "Is greater than the maid sacrificed herself for peace. But the elders hid something beneath the waters, a promise that shall awaken when the river runs red." Amelia looked at Ethan. "What does that mean?" He replied quietly, "Maybe the legend isn't just a legend." The next evening, Ethan took Amelia to the journey behind the falls, a tunnel beneath the Canadian side where visitors can stand behind the roaring water. The area was closed for the night, but he had special access for research. They walked through dark, damp passages where the sound of rushing water shook the walls. Suddenly, Amelia spotted a faint glow behind a curtain of water, a circular stone carved into the rock, marked with strange ancient symbols. "That's not supposed to be here," Ethan whispered. As Amelia touched the stone, the roar of the waterfall changed like the earth itself had taken a deep breath. Then came the whisper again, clearer than before. "Free me." Amelia gasped and pulled her hand back. "Did you hear that?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes. And that means the legend might be true. The next few days brought strange events. The water level dropped slightly. Birds flew away from the gorge, and one morning the mist above the falls turned faintly red. Tourists thought it was just a reflection of sunrise, but scientists couldn't explain it. Ethan called Amelia in panic. "It's happening, the prophecy. The river runs red." They met at the observation tower. The roar of the falls was deafening. Looking down, they saw shadow-like shapes swirling in the mist. Then, a voice echoed through the air, soft, powerful, and ancient. "Find the truth beneath the stones." They knew they had to return to the tunnel. That night, they descended again, flashlights cutting through the mist. The glowing stone was brighter now. As Amelia brushed off the mineral dust, she uncovered an inscription. Ethan translated it slowly. "Is greater than, when the hearts of two nations unite, the spirit shall rise, and peace shall fall upon the waters." The ground began to tremble. A bright light shot from the stone, and out of the mist appeared a beautiful, glowing figure, the spirit of Lelawala, the Maid of the Mist. Her eyes were gentle, but filled with sorrow. She spoke in a voice that echoed like 1,000 rivers. "My people sought unity between the lands, but greed divided them. The river remembers, the mist remembers. Do not let history repeat." Tears filled Amelia's eyes. She finally understood the legend was about forgiveness and harmony. Suddenly, thunder cracked. A violent storm rolled over Niagara. Lightning flashed across the sky, and the wind howled like 1,000 voices. Amelia and Ethan took shelter beneath the bridge. "Why now?" she shouted over the storm. Ethan answered, "Because the river is alive. It's crying for peace for both sides, to remember what they share." Amelia realized her purpose. She pulled out her notebook and began to write the truth, the legend, the warning. Her story would remind the world that nature is sacred and peace is fragile. By dawn, the storm faded. The sunlight broke through the clouds, and the falls shimmered like molten gold. For the first time in decades, a double rainbow arched perfectly across the border, connecting the United States and Canada. People gathered on both sides, staring in awe. Old and young, American and Canadian, united in wonder. The news spread fast. Reporters called it a miracle at Niagara. Weeks later, Amelia's article, "Whispers of Niagara: The Spirit Between Nations," was published worldwide. It became an international sensation, inspiring both countries to launch new joint programs to protect the falls and the river that connected them. Months later, Amelia returned to Niagara one last time. Standing near the thundering water, she whispered softly, "Thank you, Lelawala." And as the mist touched her face, a gentle voice floated through the roar of the falls. "Keep the peace flowing." The waterfall roared on, eternal and pure, guarding the border of two nations and the bond between all who believe in peace forever.